Bong Joon-Ho. I feel like anyone that hasn't at least heard of this man has been living under a rock for the past 2 decades. The South Korean auteur filmmaker is responsible for renowned films such as Memories of Murder, The Host, Mother, Snowpiercer, and perhaps most notably, 2020's Best Picture winner, Parasite. His latest film, Mickey 17, stars Robert Pattinson, Steven Yeun, Mark Ruffalo, and countless other A-listers in a dark comedy sci-fi adventure about an expendable known as Mickey that is repeatedly killed and cloned in the completion of tasks while aboard a spaceship that seeks to colonize a new planet. Pretty unique concept. We'll be talking about all of this and more on this week's episode of Studio Cinema Saturday, the show where we review films old and new, the ones that you don't like and the ones that you do. I'm your host, Dalton, and today we're going to be taking a look at Bong Joon-Ho's Mickey 17. Now when the trailer for Mickey 17 dropped, I can't lie to you guys and say that I was super gassed up to watch the film, because I wasn't. I know, I said this in my last review also, which makes it seem like I'm not a cinephile, a cinema lover, a movie fan, but at the same time I'm just really particular about the films I watch from these two genres, comedy and science fiction. I feel like the wrong plot, sometimes the wrong subgenre of these two, can just turn me off to a film entirely. So I had my reservations, but when I saw that Bong Joon-Ho was making it, my expectations were immediately back on the table. So, in a spoiler-free manner, what did I think about Mickey 17? No, not that Mickey 17. Get that greedy rat out of here. Immediately I have to talk about Mickey, aka Robert Pattinson, and dude, the man has done it again. After all the hate he received from Twilight, Pattinson has spent the better half of the last decade proving that he most certainly can act, and that depending on the character he's playing in any given story, perhaps it was just the director's vision that you didn't like. So you take Robert Pattinson's range and apply it to a character-driven story centered around a man and his clone, and you get movie magic. Mickey is this meek and mild-mannered goofball. He's not particularly great at anything. At his core, he's just a dude trying to do his best, and his best might not always be enough sometimes, and he blames himself for things out of his control and is just really awkward. Totally hard to relate to. Additionally, I think it's a well-written narrative with great subversion. The entire cast holds their own, and they're the driving force of this almost 2.5-hour film that truly has minimal slowdown. Steven Yeun plays Timo, this fun, dynamic side character. Naomi Ackie plays Nasha, Mickey's love interest. And you know, with the whole concept of the movie being Mickey getting cloned, you can imagine how that dynamic plays out. Another thing I really like about the movie, and this could be said about Bong Joon-Ho's style in general, is the control he wields over the various tones present throughout his movies. It's very much this eccentric sci-fi adventure with plenty of jokes and slapstick, but it's also thrilling. It has great action, there are great dramatic moments, and there are a few uncomfortable scenes as well. It's an overall great watch, and I recommend you check it out along with Bong Joon-Ho's other films. Now, on to some spoilers for Mickey 17. So if you don't want to know how the film reconciles the whole clone debacle, get out of here. Speaking of clones, I've actually had some issues with them in the past, but it's been about 8 years since I've seen mine. The worst part is, unlike Mickey 17 and 18, my clone was exactly like me, except he only wears homemade cut-off t-shirts, and he's always sporting a top knot. Oh no, here he comes now. Hey, no. You can't just interrupt my segment like that. I was literally just gonna change shirts. Alright, who let this asshole on set? Robert Pattinson's performances as both Mickey 17 and 18 were phenomenal. Mickey 17 is more shy, awkward, and seems to have a better moral compass, as Mickey 18 is rash, confident, sometimes violent, and perhaps a bit more freaky. And yes, I'm referencing the scene where both Mickeys are trying to make love to Nasha. They're taking turns and then it starts moving towards this awkward threesome, and Mickey 17's like, nah, we ain't doing that. And this scene made me really uncomfortable, as I assume it did many others. Simultaneously, by this point in the film, we care about Mickey 17, the version of him we've been following for most of the movie. However, in his off-screen narration, which I absolutely love, Mickey tells us that the earlier versions of himself had slight differences. Another unique aspect of the narrative is its non-linear plot structure. The film opens to Mickey 17's mission to capture one of the alien species native to the planet Niflheim, an event we eventually circle back to. However, at this point in the story, all we really know is that Mickey's some guy that slipped and fell into this snowy canyon. A ship approaches, piloted by Timo. Mickey and Timo catch up, and Timo's like, I thought you'd be dead, Mickey. And because his little robot belaying device only had so much cable, as well as it being dangerous for Timo to go down there, he simply leaves Mickey to the wolves, or rather a large herd of tentacle aliens. Then we get into all of Mickey's backstory, starting with him and Timo back on Earth 4 years prior, trying to escape a loan shark after a macaroon business venture goes wrong. Macaroon business venture, that is comical. This prompts them both to join the space expedition to colonize Niflheim. Timo joins up as a pilot and Mickey as an expendable. I loved how intense the intro to the expendable program was. Everybody's asking Mickey, you did read about the position, right? Mickey's telling them all yes, but in his head he comes to the conclusion, yeah, I should have looked into that. He's then taken into this room, given a gun and told to blow his brains out to demonstrate his commitment to an endless cycle of death and being reprinted in a new body. Aboard the ship, Mickey meets Nasha, and there is this instant romantic connection between them, which the two actors portray very naturally on screen. Now fast forward to Mickey's mission at the beginning of the film, and the aliens carry him out of their cave and cast him out. This is a tragically comedic moment, since Mickey feels like this outcast, mess-up sort of guy that society essentially deems useless. It's like not even the wild creatures of this uninhabited planet want to feast on my corpse. What's wrong with me? So Mickey trudges back to base through the snow, and another employee of the company is transporting this giant rock on a truck that tears through some of the base's infrastructure. More on that later. However, when Mickey gets back to his quarters, he finds none other than Mickey 18 in his bed, as everyone thought he was dead, so they went ahead and printed him a new body. Now at this point, it should be noted that multiples aren't allowed due to the moral, legal, and every other stance people took on the issue when it came to this guy who was committing crimes with his multiple. Exploring the real-world implications of such a revolutionary and mind-shattering technology in this satirical sci-fi piece is a lot of fun. A lot of this energy comes from the man leading the whole expedition, Kenneth Marshall, played by Mark Ruffalo. His character, or should I say caricature, is this unfeeling, rich, aristocratic political figure that speaks in a very inflated, suave sort of manner. He's super pompous. Definitely a guy you'd want to punch in the face. Honestly, he kind of feels like Trump. I don't know if that's what he was going for, but I totally see it. Mickey Barnes is this individual that mistakenly stumbles upon what he believes is a way out of the bad situation he's already in, but instead is treated as subhuman by characters like Marshall or his wife Yilfa, played by Toni Collette. Marshall's wife shares very much the same sentiment as himself. Her character is almost worse than Marshall because she's this sauce enthusiast, and she wants to make the alien tales into this fancy cuisine. Ew. What's wrong with you? Anyways, now that there are two Mickeys, Mickey 18's like, multiples aren't allowed. You've gotta go. And this introduces a lot of tension because if Mickey 17 dies, this unique version of him is lost forever since he won't be reprinted. This confrontation gets interrupted, and while Mickey 18 goes back to their quarters, Mickey 17 gets selected to have dinner with Marshall, in which they test out his reaction to this tainted meat, without his knowledge, mind you. And then they use an experimental drug to stop him from dying. I mean, the dude has died in some terrible ways throughout the film's runtime, and he's constantly saying that it's his punishment for random things he's done throughout his life, but also the death of his mother, which he feels responsible for. But anyways, back to the plot. Mickey 18 is outraged when he hears what Marshall did to Mickey 17, and takes it upon himself to shoot him with a pistol. You have it here from Mickey 18, folks. The universal solution. Mickey 18 tries to accomplish this while Marshall's giving a speech in front of the giant rock from earlier. Well, they cut it open with a laser, revealing Black Diamond, as well as two of the alien creatures known as creepers that Mickey encountered before. Chaos ensues. One of the creepers is gunned down, and Nasha and both Mickeys are taken captive. And what ensues is this hilarious scene in which Timo gets the bright idea. Since we've got two Mickeys, let's kill one of them and get this loan shark off our back. This goes back to our opening scene in which Timo's not willing to risk his life to save Mickey, but he expects an even greater sacrifice from him in order to save his own life. And perhaps he has mixed feelings after the scene in which Mickey 18's trying to incinerate him and Mickey 17's trying to save him, but I digress. There's always some great levity or dark humor in any given situation throughout this film. For some reason, Timo decides he's gonna kill Mickey 17, and Mickey, being who he is, just accepts his fate. However, Mickey 18 pipes up and says he'll take the fall as long as he's able to get high off this oxy, the drug everyone's been getting a taste of throughout the film. And they use this opportunity to escape, but the three of them aren't in the clear yet, as Marshall intercepts them, outlines his plan to gas all the creepers and take over the planet. But to ensure their compliance, he straps explosive vests on both Mickeys. Taking this a step further, Marshall destroys the organic block containing all of Mickey's memories, which prevents him from being reprinted, immediately establishing even greater stakes. Nonetheless, Marshall and his wife Yilfa present an opportunity for one of the Mickeys to live. They're both sent outside the ship with machetes, and whoever acquires 100 creeper tails gets to live, and Yilfa gets enough material to make hella creeper sauce. But another variable that's thrown into the mix is that the scientists working with Mickey throughout the cycle of death and rebirth discover that they can communicate with the creepers, and a scientist named Dorothy brings Mickey 17 a collar that allows him to communicate with them. On the other hand, at face value, the creepers are large, furry tentacle creatures, but at the same time they have the agency to surround the ship, seeking to get their beloved Zuko back. The baby creeper Marshall has been dangling from a hook above the incinerator. But on the contrary, they're also seeking retribution for the death of the other baby creeper, Luco. And the Grand Poobah, Mama Creeper, says that the only equivalent exchange is the death of a human, and if this requirement isn't met, and if Zuko isn't returned to them, they're just gonna kill everybody. So Mickey is able to communicate to Nasha the phrase, "bring the baby," using one of their sex positions they detailed in a notebook from earlier in the film. Again, I love the masterful blending of the two tones here in a dire situation. Nasha, being the badass she's proved herself to be, is able to save Zuko and take Yilfa hostage. Then the security agents are then also like, yeah, you guys have been doing some very questionable things. We're arresting you now. Approaching the end of our film, conveniently Marshall is such an arrogant leader that he decides to leave the ship and personally deliver a speech to the creepers before completely exterminating them. And it's this that allows Mickey 18 to sacrifice himself by detonating his bomb vest, killing himself and Marshall in the process. And while Mickey 17 has been our primary character throughout the film that we've become emotionally attached to, we now care about the more rash, aggressive, subdued side of Mickey's subconscious that's represented through Mickey 18, adding even more impact to his sacrificial act. Zuko gets returned to his family of creepers, and there's this time jump to a ceremony that establishes Nasha with this newfound power in the organization as she gives a speech, abolishing expendables and the device that clones individuals. We also have this moment that circles back to Mickey believing that he killed his mother by pressing the red button in her car, an action he's being forced to repeat in order to destroy the cloning device. And again, Bong Joon-Ho subverts expectations by giving us this nightmare of a what-if scenario in which Mickey imagines Marshall being reprinted and him and Yilfa returning to power. It's a fun little horror moment that teases a potential melancholy end to our narrative, but then we return to reality and see Mickey 17 press the button and destroy the device, thus ending our film. Wow. What an incredible movie. Not only was it super entertaining, as well as beautifully acted, directed, and shot, it's a satirical film that's juggling this blend of comedy, sci-fi, drama, and even horror, while also raising discourse about the very issues and events surrounding us on the daily. There are the more obvious parallels, as I previously mentioned, with Marshall being this Trump-like figure. He's aristocratic, he's a political and religious leader, and he attempts to colonize this new world at the expense of the natives living there. It conjures the recent controversy of the last couple months in which Trump was talking about making Canada a state and acquiring Greenland. And it also just represents the history of the US in general, with Manifest Destiny, The Trail of Tears, and numerous other related events. I think there's also a discussion to be had about the duality of Mickey 17 and 18. One of them is the subjugated, oppressed member of the society that's forced into a situation that he believes is his only option to survive. And the pressure cooker that is Marshall's regime has forged this repressed, subconscious side of Mickey to be expressed through the creation of Mickey 18. There's the good ending, where the cloning system is abolished and Mickey lives happily ever after with his woman and is once again respected by society. Conversely, Mickey 18 has to sacrifice himself in order to bring about the change. I feel like an extremely viable interpretation of this and comparable scenario is a soldier being drafted into a war for a cause he and the people don't believe in, because it's morally wrong. You could even compare it to a soldier returning from war as a broken version of himself, riddled with PTSD and guilt. while a part of him died on the battlefield. Nevertheless, Mickey 18 is able to inspire Mickey 17 and help forge himself into the person he was meant to be, a person with value, a hero. And the craziest thing is that he had the confidence, the determination, and all these other amazing attributes deep down inside himself all along. One other thing I'll briefly touch on is the discourse created regarding open relationships and sex in the modern age. Kai, one of the other pilots aboard the ship, attempts to seduce Mickey 17, asking if he and Nasha's relationship is open. I'm not really sure what the film's saying about this, but we can see that the system obviously doesn't condone this sort of behavior and attempts to eliminate sex altogether. Food for thought. So, it appears I have nothing left to do but score the film, and I'm gonna go with a very confident 8 out of 10. I think it earns a 7.5 out of 10 alone for the artistry that's present on every level of its execution, but I gave it an extra 0.5 simply for my personal enjoyment alone. We hope you enjoyed this episode of Studio Cinema Saturday. If you did, be sure to drop a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, and let us know your thoughts on Mickey 17 in the comments section down below. Or tell me what your favorite Bong Joon-Ho film is. I'm looking to explore more of his filmography, and I'd love some recommendations. Additionally, if you're looking for more things to watch, we have plenty more episodes of Studio Cinema Saturday and its sister show, Television Tuesday, floating around the internet, so go give those videos a watch. Not only that, we're filmmakers ourselves, so if you'd like to see what we've contributed to the cinematic landscape on the small screen, go give our short films a watch. And as always, we'll see you at the next watch.